Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into this show today. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to make sure your vast credit card collection, as it grows, all your cards continue to stay active and in good standing, so when you need to reach for one of your plastic arsenal weapons, it's there ready to go. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, what exactly do I mean? A credit card is not a chia pet. You don't actually need to feed it and water it, but you do need to do a few things to make sure the card stays active. And by staying active, what we mean is, simply put, the bank doesn't close it or potentially reduce your credit limit. It's really that simple, because just like your bank account, right? Your deposit, your checking and savings account, a bank can end your relationship for any reason, and they don't have to tell you the reason, and they probably won't tell you the reason. They simply will send you a letter and say, hey, you're done. Go play someplace else. Now, this isn't that nefarious by any means. We're talking about very specific things. We're ruling out that for this episode, we're ruling out the fact that you would be doing crazy things with your credit card. We're literally just talking about how do you make sure your credit card is active and in good standing. Well, the first one obviously is to make sure you're paying your bills on time, which you already know. But the second one is to make sure your credit card is seen by the issuer still in use and needed, right? Because what's going to happen is, as you go, you're going to build a large credit card collection, or I hope you do. People get a kick out of this wallet. I don't carry this around. This is where I store all my cards on the bench. And even then, there's still 2 other cards in my main wallet, and there's one actually in the mail as we tape this. But these are the cards, right? And so what will happen is, as you develop all these cards, right? For example, there are 4 Freedom cards here, 2 Freedom Flexes, 2 OG Freedoms. You don't really need to use all of them all the time, right? You get into these situational moments where, I might not use a credit card for quite some time. Maybe you're hunting a lot of intro offers and you don't use the cards that you have. Well, over time, if a card is not used, the issuer may actually just cancel that card on your behalf or deactivate it for inactivity. So the very simple way to do this is to make sure that you're using your cards to some degree. Now there's different methodologies and strategies, but first let's start off with why would an issuer do this? Well, again, most banking is about risk decisioning, right? So anytime I've extended you credit, I've given you this Freedom card with a $1,000 credit limit, there is risk there, right? Because that's a credit limit that you could pull down at any time to use for whatever you want, and the issuer's not really going to know until you make that purchase. And so sometimes, when we see economies going up and down, that's a time we see mass firings. People may need to reach for credit more. The banks get concerned about that, right? And why, if I have a customer who's actively using the credit card, and I've been at least seeing what they're purchasing, and yes, they can see what you purchase, well, then I might as well leave that card active, because I'm still making money off the interchange fees or the swipe fees and potentially on interest. But if I have some accounts that haven't been used in quite some time, and the average range is about a year is what we're looking at, a year of activity, give or take, just so you're aware of that. But if I've got some cards that haven't been used in a while and I want to start de-risking, I'll probably start with the ones that I'm not making any money from and that are costing me money. Now, I don't know how much it actually costs to maintain a credit card account. I assume there is some cost associated. The vast majority of this stuff is automated, especially if they put you into e-statements or you've enrolled in that. So I don't think the cost is that major. I don't know for sure, but there's still cost associated, right? So if I want to de-risk, I might start closing those accounts. Additionally, I could just lower the credit limit if I still want to keep my open accounts up as a lender to report on, hey, you have this many accounts. Well, I could just start slashing your credit limit. It's like, hey, you don't use it anyway, so I'll take you down to $500. That is not necessarily going to hurt you per se. I mean, it can hurt your credit utilization if you're carrying a bunch of balances, but not really going to hurt you that much. It is kind of an annoyance. Or I can close your account altogether and de-risk. Additionally, a lender could be looking at it and say, hey, I still have a lot of new customers coming in asking for credit, right? And maybe there's a cap of how much money I want to have lent out or have available to be pulled from at any given time. So I still want to get these new customers. So maybe I want to just again, turn off these customers who are dormant, not using their accounts, because there's no real benefit. It's only a risk. I'm not making any money in interchange fees. Again, the maintenance of the account, keeping that up to date, what have you, and it's not bringing me any money, right? So those are some reasons why they would do this, right? We're never going to know for sure because, again, they don't really tell you the reason. They'll just send you a letter and say, hey, this account is closed due to inactivity. Now, Sometimes they'll send you a letter or reminder saying, hey, if you don't use this account within the next 30 days, we are going to turn it off and it will be closed. And of course, if they close it, you cannot reopen it. Again, you could probably reapply for the card if you wanted to, given the rules of the card. Each card is different, but they're not going to reopen it for you. When it's closed, it's closed. So, what do you do to keep these open? Well, again, some cards you're not going to care about at all, right? So if I go back to this wallet, I have some cards like, for example, this is a Wells Fargo Business Platinum card. I got this for the intro offer. Honestly, I could probably call and close this one now. I don't care if they close it. I'm never going to use it again. But then you have some other cards, again, I'm really just pulling out the ones that don't have numbers on them, but I love my Citi Custom Cash card, but I may go quite a while without using it, not because it's not a good card, but because I go after so many intro offers or because I have other 5% cards or what have you. Doesn't matter, but I still want the option to have the Custom Cash. So a real easy way to keep these active is to use the card, but you don't need to put a ton of spend on it. Instead, what you can do, the simplest way to do it, is just do a $1 Amazon reload on the card. Do it either when you do it under, make sure you're paying attention so either I have auto pay set up or just go ahead and send them $1 right now to cover it. And that's generally enough activity because they can see the cards using. They're not necessarily paying attention to how much you're using. Just, hey, this is an active account. Okay, keep it going, move on to the next one. That's probably the easiest way. Now, in addition to that, I've also, back to the wallet here as a prop. Again, these are 4 Freedom cards, right? Now, I only use those cards for their 5% category. Now, what I've started doing is, as I've developed having 4 of these, I used to just take one for the quarter, use it, and if I maxed it out, then I would go to the next card or the next card. But now what I've started doing is, one, I will rotate which one is my primary Freedom card each quarter, so they're all getting use. In addition to that, I may actually switch them out each month because it's still the same 5%, still the same 5% cashback earning. So I might use Freedom 1 for the month of, whatever month you're watching this, and just say it's, like September. And then, in October, I'll just put it back and use another one. So I'm just rotating them because they're effectively the same card, so it doesn't matter. You could make the same argument with the Custom Cash. You get to pick your 5X category. So if I know if it's been on the bench for a while, I just might use it as well. In addition to that, that's enough to keep them activated, rotating them out if you don't want to just do the $1 Amazon reload. But for something that I don't use often at all because I've got a lot of other cards like, this Huntington Business Voice, then yeah, I'm going to simply put a $1 Amazon charge on it. You could take it to the grocery store, buy a pack of gum, what have you. But, something like that just to make sure it stays active. In addition to that, we've talked a lot about product changing cards. If it's a card that is not useful to you, like, I have the Bank of America Business Unlimited cash card because I'm Platinum Honors. That card gives me 2.62% back. So my Citi Double Cash now, I don't use any, I don't need anymore. But instead of letting it just go dormant, letting them close it, I could phone in to Citi and say, hey, can you product change this Double Cash card to another Custom Cash card? Another 5% card is very useful to me, and now I have a reason to throw that into the rotation versus keeping alive this 2% card that I'm not going to use again because I now have 2.62 as my catch-all minimum. So those are really some things you might want to consider because you go through such lengths to build out this credit card collection. And over time, again, like as you see from the wallet, you'll have more cards than you have immediate use for, but some cards become situational usage, so look for product change options if you want. Again, the Amazon reloads, I'd say at least once a year is probably the best way to do it. Minimum once a year. You could look to every 6 months or something like that just to keep it active. And then, of course, if there are cards you don't want anymore, then you could probably just phone in and close those because if nothing else, it gets you back in line for an intro offer if you want it. And then lastly, if you have doubles of cards like many of us end up doing, like those Freedoms or these Custom Cashes, simply rotate which ones you use them because even a quarter off or a month off or 6 months off isn't going to be enough to get it closed. It's really, I think the sweet spot is really a year. If you get to the 2-year mark, you're definitely looking at, potential closure on a card that you want to keep, right? So those are the strategies that I use to make sure I'm keeping my credit card portfolio, alive, activated, and of course, no credit limit decreases. Of course, none of this, again, this is just for activation. It's not to say if you do this, the credit card company can't decrease your limit or close your account for other reasons. But as we said in the beginning, we're really just focused on activity here from that lens. So again, that is how I take care of my credit card collection. Definitely as you grow yours out, I think you should consider doing the same. But of course, let me know what other things you've done to keep your cards active down below. What crazy $1 strategies have you used? Love to hear from you guys. But anyways, of course, that's going to do it for this one. So if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Of course, we're posting content just like this every single week, right back every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And of course, every single day over on profitablecontent.com. That is the channel's blog where we talk about the latest news stories, bank offers, and credit card promotions, just in case you want a new card to start practicing these newfound skills with. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you very soon in the next one.